Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a Spright deck profile post the new Battles of Legends set Terminal Revenge, because we do get the Ice Barrier support that makes Toadally Awesome a lot more viable and usable in the deck, which is great because Spright's biggest weakness, I would say, in terms of just like the deck itself, is its ability to follow up on like turn 3, for example, and Toad is just one avenue that gives the deck a little bit of playability turn 3 with the ability to recur a nimble beaver and to be able to kind of keep playing that way. Certainly the deck still lacks that recurability that obviously other decks have, but if you are a Spright enjoyer, which I am, then it makes the deck just that little bit more playable, which is great. So a lot of things are fairly standard. So of course there's the 3 blue, which allows you to grab Spright monsters. There's 3 jet, which grabs the Spright spell traps. We've got 1 red and 1 carrot. These are great for insulating plays and for putting it onto end boards if possible. They certainly just help insulate plays to kind of keep them going if you're unable to establish an early Toad, for example. Then we have 3 starter, which of course is just a free special summon from the deck. And I'm maining 1 double cross. Double cross is really one of the only other ways the deck can recur resources. Obviously you can use double cross offensively, but I much prefer to use it defensively in terms of bringing back a blue and then allowing you to search jet, and that gives you some follow-up similar to what Elf used to do. That's obviously going first. If you know you're going second, you side this out, and there's definitely an argument to just not play it at all in terms of the main deck, just because it's not going to be very good going second. But I think it's worth playing because the deck is already you're already playing at that little bit of a disadvantage, and that it's a bit of an auto strategy. But yeah, I think it's worth playing. That is the Spright specific things. Then the reason to kind of give the deck a go again is the ability to play the Swap Frog with the new card, Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier. Essentially, Swap Frog sends aquas, water aquas, and so when you send Mirror Mage of the Ice Barrier to the graveyard, it allows you to search for an Ice Barrier card that is banished or in your deck, and that's going to be Freezing Chains of the Ice Barrier. So you do have to play these 2 kind of bricky cards. At worst, Mirror Mage can be normal summoned and linked away to still search out Freezing Chains. The Freezing Chains is a brick, otherwise it's not a card you want to draw. You only want to be searching it off the Mirror Mage. This one's not terrible. I mean, we've accepted playing Nimble Anglers and things like that to normal summon and special summon Sprights. So Mirror Mage does do the same, but obviously we'd much rather just dump it from Swap Frog and then get access to the Freezing Chains. So these, in kind of the modern iteration of the deck, is that these are kind of taking the place of what the Melfi cards used to do. I mean, the Melfi cards are great, but I think that they're bricks too, and certainly they do add to an ed board, but so does Toad as well. Then to add to the waters we're playing, of course, we're playing the Beavers and Anglers as normal summons. And the 1 Foolish Burial. I don't mind Foolish Burial. It's a pretty good starter, dumping an Angler to get 2 Beavers out of the deck. It obviously messes up your nimble counts if you draw them or things like that, but it just gives you a way to play the game if you do get hand trapped otherwise. So Foolish Burial is not terrible, depending on where you get hand trapped, of course, but yeah, Foolish Burial is good. In a pinch, you can also use it to dump the Mirror Mage as an additional option, but otherwise, yeah, mainly you're just sending it using it to send Angler to get play starting, or you can send that Mirror Mage too as well. Then this is the part I'm certainly not sure about, and certainly if you want to give some feedback in the comments, I will gladly take it. But I'm playing a small Kashtira engine of 1 Fenrir, 1 Unicorn, 2 Pressured Planet, and a Birth. Now, this does look funny. Obviously, Spright in the past was happy playing Fenrir, and that's what you could certainly do. I mean, this is a 40 card list. You could very easily, and this is something that I would probably even consider doing as well, is you could easily just take these 5 cards and throw them out and replace them with, just 3, just keep 1 Fenrir, play 3 Fenrir, and then play 1 other hand trap or non-engine salt. You could even play like Talents or Prosperity and play that at 3, and that would put you to 41, which is, I love a 41 card deck, but you could do that. But this is something that I'm just testing. So it just gives you 5, well, obviously not counting Birth, not the best card, but it essentially gives you 3 copies of Unicorn or 3 copies of Fenrir. So going second, it has some utility. Going first, it has utility. So going first, you'd be going for Unicorn to grab the Birth. Going second, you could grab Fenrir, which will search Unicorn, but it's just an extra card in the hand, really. But this, like I said, so Spright's already been playing Fenrir for a long time, just as a free body, and it's obviously, you know, Fenrir's got a lot of utility. It's not a bad card by any imagination. It's a very good card. And by having access to Birth, though, it just gives the deck another way to follow up resources. So similar thing, like if you're getting hand trapped to pieces and things like that, if you're able to stick a Unicorn and search Birth, similar to how Snake Eyes is doing as well, you get 2 bodies out of the Unicorn because you can Birth, bring it back, but also if the Birth sticks around, you just get Unicorn back again for the following turn. So it's just another means of recursability. Obviously, the Kashtira engine does nothing for your Spright combo, but the other option you could do if you wanted to just keep the non-engine. So I'm playing 12 other dedicated non-engine spots. You could count, you know, Fenrir and 2 planets as 3 more because they're pretty good going second as well. You could kind of count that, and that would put you at, you know, 15. Or you could throw this out and play a like a little mutant engine of, you know, 3 E-Telly, 1 MO5, and 1 mutant, because that just gives you an additional way to play the game outside of your Nimbles, your starters, your Sprights. It just gives you another way to do full Sprite combo as well. So this is kind of a flex spot in the deck. Up to you as to what you want to do. This is what I'm just trialing at the moment. I don't mind it because it's got, you know, the cards are obviously very strong, big attack point monsters, recurability with Birth. It's just something that I'm trialing, but certainly let me know what you think. And then 12 cards at the end. We're just playing hand traps. So we've got Ash, we've got Morna, Vela, Imperm, just, you know, the 12 generic ones that everyone's kind of playing at the moment. But these could be any 12 cards. So like I said, you could play, this could be 18, really. Like this is 12, and you could certainly, you know, take these 5 and make them, you know, 6 more hand traps, and then play heaps of hand traps if you really want to. If you want to do that, you could certainly argue playing something like a Gamma Burst as well in the deck for going second, you know, hand trap them to pieces and then just OTK with Gamma Burst. But I mean, like, you probably just play template at that point. Then for the extra deck, we're playing the 2 Gigantic Spright, playing Toadally Awesome, of course. This is what we're, you know, now aiming to do. We've got Onibimaru, Mosquito, Mannequin Cat, Gin Buster. These 2 currently are just, like, they're fairly flexible. I'm obviously not maining any, like, decent targets for Mannequin Cat. I mean, we've got a lot of ground covered already with the deck. You know, everyone's playing Darks, so you'd happily pull out a Spright with Mannequin Cat. You would side deck more disgusting floodgate options if you wanted to. Yeah, for sure. So you can definitely side deck things for Mannequin Cat, like, you know, based on different hand traps that you might see from your opponent. You know, if they ash something, Mannequin Cat could pull out, you know, red or carrot. Yeah. Gin Buster is pretty flexible too. You don't always get to it. It just depends on, you know, how cracked your hand is. Then we've got Downer Than Zeus. Again, I don't find myself making these too often, just because often you're just trying to stick Gigantic, but yeah, they definitely come up there. Sprint, SP, IP, Dark, Phoenix, and Goddess. I just like Goddess as another thing for IP because often you can kind of just get to SP and IP. And, you know, SP, the line's obviously a prime target for IP, but you can, you know, just go for SP first, and then IP into Goddess or into even Phoenix. You know, IP into Phoenix for back row removal is good too. But that's the extra deck. I haven't got a side deck for the deck as it stands, but like I said, some combination of, you know, other hand traps, you know, some floodgates for Mannequin Cat would be fine as well. But now I'll do some test hands just to show what the deck is capable of doing. Okay, so we'll do a few test hands and see what we can come up with. All right, we have Imperm, Jet, Vela, Swap Frog, and Morna. So, you know, 3 hand traps plus a combo, like that's pretty good. we cannot complain with that. So we just put these to the side. Obviously going second, we'd feel very safe with our 3 hand traps here. But we're going to go ahead and normal summon Swap Frog, and we can use this to throw the Ice Barrier card into the graveyard and use its effect to grab the Freezing Chains. Now this is something that we can now consider doing, especially because we opened a Spright. We can obviously activate the Freezing Chains, target the Mirror Mage, and bring it back. And we can, because the one we opened is Jet specifically, we can go ahead and turn these into Toad immediately. Now, an issue with this is that obviously we would lose Toad if our opponent had some kind of interruption that we really wanted to stop. So it does insulate the plays, but also it kind of doesn't at the same time, because we don't have another Aqua to send off Toad. Obviously, if we can get to the standby phase with Toad, we get the Swap Frog, and then that gives us another thing to use for the Toad negate. But having it now is fine. We can kind of just keep playing from here. So now we can special Jet, because Jet and Blue obviously require a rank 2 or level 2. So we can continue playing with Jet here. And then we would have to grab Starter in this case. So we don't get access to Double Cross in this example, but this is probably a bit safer as well, because now we can fire off the Starter. With Starter we can go for Blue, and Blue can grab us Red. Which we can throw onto the field as well. Now, because we're very much backed up by interruptions, we're able to, we can go for Sprint first. If we weren't able to establish some kind of protection with like Red and Toad or whatever, going for Gigantic is okay just for Nibiru purposes, but we're totally fine going for Sprint here. I mean, Sprint will send Angler, and Angler will summon out our 2 Beavers. Which we can go ahead, overlay for a Gigantic Spright, use the effect, and we can summon, because I've already gone through all of our Sprites, all of our Frogs, there's nothing really of value that we would like to summon that's going to kind of help extend plays, so we can just go for Carrot next, just to really set up the board. Now, this is pretty strong. We don't really want to link anything else away. We don't want to make IP or SP really here, I don't think. We're pretty happy with what we've got set up here, so we can set the impermanence and pass turn. So like Sprint, depending on how our opponent goes to play. Obviously in our opponent's standby phase we can detach from Toad and summon out a Swap Frog. We can use that just to get the last Swap Frog out of the deck if we want to, which is fine to do. Just means that our draws are potentially a lot stronger, just thinning out the deck. Obviously it gives Toad something to send to negate, just to kind of help keep the Toad around, but also gives us fodder for Carrot and Red. Gigantic, the material under Toad and Gigantic could be used for Sprint, preferably the Toad negate, the Toad material, because we don't really have any other use for the Toad material now. But yeah, pretty strong. Obviously, everyone's playing hand traps, so if we're not going to really get this far, but Spright is pretty good at playing through hand traps. We didn't necessarily have to go for that early Toad. If we didn't, we wouldn't have access to it at all, though, because we had to kind of use the Swap Frog and the Mirror Mage. In that case, would have had to use them to kind of build a board from there. But I think having early Toad is good too. But that's the first hand. So 3 hand traps combo. It's pretty good. Can't ask for much better. Now, for the general end board, that's essentially what we're going for, just any combination of cards like that. If we aren't able to stick things like Red and Carrot and we have extra Sprites left over, that's where we'd make something like an IP. We can IP into SP using Sprint, for example. So yeah, that's kind of what the end board is going to look like. We'll just look more so at the hand combinations now, just to kind of get a good idea of hand traps to engine ratios. Fenrir, Imperm, Veiler, Ash, and this needs to be a starter or we're in trouble, and it's not. So we are playing Fenrir Unicorn Control somehow here, hoping that 3 hand traps Fenrir Unicorn is enough. We'd be drawing into a Jet, which, yeah, I don't know, that's pretty sketchy if we get that far, if the Jet is able to kind of do anything. But you know, if we can normal summon it and still have one of our Kashtira monsters around, we can get to Sprint, but yeah, it's pretty sketch hand. So lots of non-engine in that one, which is going to happen when you're playing a high count. Beaver is already good. Freezing Chains, that's the brick. Unfortunate. Fenrir again as a one-off. We got Veiler and Wraithsworth. So 2 ways to Kashtira here. We don't really want to go for Fenrir then. We'll go Wraithsworth first. We'll grab the Unicorn. The only issue with the planet stuff is that obviously Droll becomes a lot more of an issue. Spright already has a decent like matchup for Droll with starter and things like that, but you know, going this way just means you play into Droll that little bit more. But I don't know, I think just gives you the versatility between the 2 Kashtira monsters, which one you want to go for. But you can say let me know in the comments. This is the thing that I'm kind of the most not sold on, but we can go ahead and throw Unicorn out now. We've already tested Droll with Wraither, so we can go ahead and use Unicorn to grab Birth. And then we've just got that as an extra body later on if we need to. But that will just depend on whether or not the Beaver gets interrupted. Because if we were to go Beaver and but I don't think our opponent would interrupt because this just becomes Sprint. They'd be better off just trying to stop Sprint, I guess. But then, you know, we'll go into Angler now. So in a hand like this where we are spriteless, getting access to, we have to obviously decide between the sprites and the toad, and obviously we could still get hand trapped on the gigantic anyway, which would be, you know, pretty problematic for us. So from here we can opt to keep the Unicorn around, or we can link off for Sprint, which we'll go ahead and do. We're going to send Angler. We're going to bring out the 2 Beavers. We've got all of the Beavers on the field. So this is obviously playing a lot more into Nibiru. We could have just gone Angler and Beaver for gigantic, but it's okay. We're just testing to see what we can do here. So this is where we have to decide whether or not we want a Toad line or just to play the sprites. So sprites will give us the 2 bodies and the double cross, which could get us into IP and a double cross, which is 2 interruptions. Whereas going with the frog, we can still get the IP through gigantic and Beaver, but we also get the follow up through the frog as well. So if this was this way, we'd be going frog, send Mirror Mage. We obviously don't get the effect of Mirror Mage. Because then we're going to go Freezing Chains, bring back Mirror Mage, overlay for Toad. So this is option 1. And then in this case, because we're just leaving it, we'd probably take the Beaver and the gigantic and turn them into IP. And that's how we'd probably go with that one. If we were to not do that, so just, you know, if you haven't played Spright in a while or aren't as familiar with the deck, so if we don't do that at all, obviously we don't have the IP, but if we summoned off of gigantic the blue, we'd be getting blue into Jet, and then Jet can search us double cross or starter. Both options do, you know, represent follow-up in a way. If we hold them both, and then with our bodies on board, we could take these and go for this is where something like the Soul Sweeper, the Djinn Buster, sorry, could come up. It stops 1 monster effect. Not nearly as good as Toad, of course. These could still go into IP, and then we could set either of these as that follow-up, because then we can IP away with Djinn Buster into something like a, or IP, so we'd use the Sprint with IP into something like an SP Little Knight potentially, and go from there. Obviously we've got Birth too for some follow-up. So that was kind of where we could go with that example. We'd have to choose what we want and how we want to kind of play. I think the Spright line's probably a bit better just because I think it gave you a bit more interruptions, but also some follow-up as well. Whereas the previous didn't really do that. If you just go for the Toadally Awesome, like the Toad's obviously stronger itself as an interrupt, but follow-up is good. All right, we'll do one more, and we'll try and just race through a few hands actually, just to gauge playable or not. There's that freezing chains again. So obviously, Ash on the starter and we cry. Yep, that's that hand. It's Ash on starter and we cry. Doubling up on Ash is not good. Opening the freezing chains again is not good. But I think this is the best way to play Spright in terms of just what we have available to us. I'm always going to be interested by Tri-Brigade Spright just because Tri-Brigade Revolt is just a crazy follow-up card. But I think for me, in terms of Spright deck building, it's always got to come back to the follow-up. Okay, so this is obviously going first. This would be a great hand. We'd be able to push through quite a few things here. We've got Beaver, which if it gets stopped, we've got Jet to kind of keep going. Starter gives us another way to play as well. Red Surf gives us, like, in a worst case, like this combos into Sprint. It gives us a Fenrir if we were going second, so we'd have like a Fenrir and Morna, which is at least something. So that hand's not terrible. Going first or second, it definitely would have had options, which I think is what we want, right? We want to be able to play going first or second consistently. Here we go, double cross. So not a good card to draw necessarily, but if we're going first and we're able to kind of establish things, then that would feel good. This hand feels almost exactly the same as the previous one. Like two examples of non-engine going second, but also going first, is going to insulate players a little bit more as well. Ash is a good card, and then, this is our way to play. If like starter was to, throw it out, it gets ashed. We've at least then got Planet and Jet to go for like a sprint, and hope our opponent doesn't have a second way to interrupt us, otherwise we are obviously losing, but it's just an option. Try and race through a couple more and see what we can do. Freezing Chains, Angler, Veiler, Mirror Mage, and a Beaver. Okay, this hand is pretty terrible. If we had a Swap Frog instead of one of these cards, we would probably feel a lot better. Like Swap Frog to pitch this or this. If this was in the hand, like this is obviously terrible. This is not a good hand. Obviously, we just get stopped on. If we get stopped on Beaver, we just lose. It just depends on it. Yeah, Beaver. Like, would they stop Beaver? I don't know. They'd probably just wait for Gigantic and stop that. And either way, we still just lose the game on that one. So yeah, we want multiple ways to kind of push, I guess, similar to like your Snake Eyes boards, I guess. Comparing hand traps to starters. In that hand, we didn't have many starters, so we just lose to one hand trap. Burial's good. Swap Frog is potentially really good as well if we can pair it with some good things. Infirm, Beaver, Angler. So this is interesting. This would obviously be, we've got a way to play here, we have a way to play here. Foolish Burial gives us a way to play as well, depending on what happens. Non-engine wise, it's just Infirm, but so going second, it would be a bit harder. We'd obviously Imperm something, draw into Unicorn, which doesn't really help us much going second, but gives us something that can at least threaten like a battle phase potentially, depending on what we are against. But otherwise, I'll leave that one there. I don't know if you can hear my kids screaming in the background, but I need to go and be a parent. But that'll do it for this one, and I will certainly catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching.